Honorable Ousman Touray. So while we're waiting on Ousman Touray to join us, we would just ask you to join the stream, share, invite one another, while we're also waiting on Patrick Kasarim to connect and to join us on the stream tonight. So I want to thank all of you. Today is a special day where we dedicate it especially to the youth voices that have been anxiously, giving us feedback. They're the ones that are actually really mostly concerned on this Magnification week. You can see the crying, the mourning, the breakdown, the passing away of some of them, which is actually pointing to the fact how useful and how serious the young people had been looking on to the leadership of former Excellency Dr. John Pombe Magufuli. And so we are going to get into this week starting with the young people. And that's why we have Honorable Ousman Touray live with us, joining us from the Gambias. And he's been here. He's just trying to get his seat and his technique connected. So while we wait on him, please let us watch the sound of the century that is going to accompany the Magnification decade. And so the Pan-African Daily TV team came up and start working since 3 days now, trying to put out this masterpiece out there. And so they dropped out the first bit today, this afternoon, and I'm introducing it to you, and you'll be getting used to it as time goes on. The voicing would come, they're working on it, and the videos would accompany, and it's going to be the decade because it's all geared to young people. And so this song is called Royal Treasures featuring Ghetto Kids. As you all know, the day of the passing away of His Excellency happened exactly when we were live in the studio talking to these young musicians, and Ghetto Kids were live when the news came and we shut down. So they actually got into work immediately that night, trying to put out a masterpiece that would accompany his legacy all his life and the new generations to come. Thank you so very much for joining. When you're connecting from all our different platforms, make sure you share and invite one another before we get into this Youth Week commemorating the Magnification Week with Ousman Touray. Thank you. Yeah, that was the Royal Treasures featuring Ghetto Kids, and the voicing would be coming, the videos will be coming. It's going to be the decade for Magolification as young people are rising up from north, south, west, east, and all the regions and in the diaspora to mourn and celebrate the legacy of a hero, of a son and a statesman of Africa. And I want to thank all of you, particularly the young people that have been, coming back to us with questions. And what is the legacy? Are we sure of the future? What is it that we should not be afraid of? But like Professor Pierlo Lumumba said, and I bring you greetings from the Pierlo Lumumba Foundation, to whom even Ousman Touray this afternoon is a mentor. And yes, Pierlo Lumumba said, Professor Pierlo Lumumba said, God has given and God has taken. Let us continue to forge ahead. Who knows whether tomorrow might be him, might be me or you. So Africans, we stay focused, we stay united. He came, he saw it, he did his work, and he's gone. Now it's your time. What are we going to do? So as we gradually enter this week, you see that even our mood should already be being lighter. We should have more hope, more prospects. Like Professor Baino Bello said yesterday, the Queen of Haiti, this is not the time. While we cry with one eye, we leave one eye open. Yes, we be vigilant and we stay focused. While we weep and mourn, like we see the women and the young people, even the disabled, running out to just view for their last time, to have the last respect to just see this physical dimension that he was in again. All of us, it is a privilege for us to just even have the honor, have even the privilege to celebrate him, to talk about him, And so a lot of people like, why are some other leaders just so silent? But I say, don't worry. When you're silent about someone else, they will be silent about you. We don't need, even now, we're even thankful that the media will leave him in peace because he's done his work. No matter what they say now, there is nothing again to criticize. There is nothing to hate. There is nothing left for the world to mock or to criticize Africa. He's done it and he's gone. So now at least they have left him in peace, and now he's resting. He's looking at us, celebrating with the other ancestors and saying, yeah, now is your time. So we have Ousman Touray with us. Honorable Ousman Touray is with us live now. And we would open up the conversation and start this discussion on today. What are we looking forward to have in the presentation? Actually, it's not a conversation like a question and answer like we did. It's actually an address to young people, an address to the leadership, an address to Africans worldwide from Honorable Ousman Touray. Ousman Touray came here last year and made us and gave us an assignment and awoke us young people. He touched our lives and he put us to work. He opened our eyes, even the wise, even the lonely, the sick, the disabled, the old, the young, all. Ousman Touray put us on a work. And we are so grateful that he had this patience, he had this endurance, that he came in another format, yes, to just show us who he is. So I'm so happy that as this news dropped in, he had already signified on that same day that he wants to be on the show to pay respect. That is how honorable great leaders do. When heroes fall, when their role models fall, when the leadership that they all anticipate and respect for, they step on to address, to take responsibility, to show their face as the people that stood for this leadership. While others are hiding, they don't even want to identify themselves. Ousman Touray comes here in the name of Honorable Ousman Touray to address us about what we should know, about what we need to focus on in the way forward. I'm so humbled and I'm thankful that he's here with us. I would greet him shortly, but then we'll go into that first speech that opened up the gate of heaven for the African children, and we discovered Honorable Ousman Touray. My Honorable, you're welcome.
Welcome, Dr. Susan. Thank you so much for having me in the show once again.
Yes, I want to also, first of all, congratulate you for your graduation. We were still going to prepare to have that conversation with you before this incident happened. Could you just tell us a little bit how the ceremony, how long, just very short, give us an overview, what has been happening up to your graduation and what are you doing now?
Yeah, I mean, I completed my program back in 2019, but because of the COVID, because of the pandemic and everything, we could not hold a graduation ceremony. So that is why it was until last month or later this month, sorry, that we had our graduation ceremony here in the Gambia. And that was for my BSc, which I did in the University of the Gambia and in Development Studies. So right now, you know, the focus and everything is going to Rwanda in a few weeks' time to focus on my master's program.
So the focus is in Rwanda. A lot of people were thinking that you were already in Rwanda, all right? You still had to complete the program that you have started, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, I was in Rwanda on few trainings. One was to focus on some leadership training with the ANA think tank, which I completed. And then I had the time to go to Nairobi to meet PLO Lumumba, and I spent about 15 days with him, just through mentorship, getting to know more about the PLO Lumumba Foundation and his projects towards Africa as a whole. That is it. And from there also, I've moved to the Seed Project in Senegal, meeting young Africans, talking about African development, meeting them through sport, but with the idea of having to understand that Africa is the basis, that we have to be patriotic Africans, and all that we are doing, there is the need to channel it in the continent for our collective benefit. And after that, I've also been to Ghana to meet one of my friends, Nana Kwame Bidiako, also known as Freedom. And the objective was, you know, getting to meet people who equally have the same Pan-African mindset, people that we can exchange with, but also to build a freedom movement across Africa, that all young people can get the message that, you know, we can meet in platforms, we can exchange as brothers and sisters, starting to build the Africa we want as a generation of Africans that are going to stand firm to liberate ourselves, not just from being controlled by outsiders, but to equally solve the fundamental problems within the continent. For instance, talking about poverty and how we can address it, talking about corruption and how we can address it, talking about leadership, the politics, getting to organize ourselves more just to prevent the mistakes that have previously been happening within the continent. So on a similar basis, this is what I've been doing over the past months. And because I've also been appointed as the ambassador of the Pan-African World Heritage, and now we are building a museum project in Ghana. So I was there as well to interact with people who are equally on the project sites and seeing how we can move ahead and organizing few conferences in Ghana later this year, maybe around August.
Okay, this is very interesting for us to know, particularly getting this feedback. I know I'm still going to get you on a one-on-one, so we talk about these projects, because right now we are here on another situation which we're dealing with. I would still get back on you, Honorable, to find out all these projects like the freedom movement that you're talking about, the youth, how far we're going, because a lot of youths are really looking up to you and to put out this way. But of course, we now have also young women freedom fighters, and one amongst Grace Ekon from the South Sudan, who is also very intuitive and putting the young women of your generation, of her generation, together exactly with the same goal to build a freedom movement, youth Pan-African movement that is going to be worldwide. So I think we are really complete. We are set on this journey. Now, we would be getting into the process of today. What is it that you can give us like a forward, and we will watch your first appearance, your first video, not on the Pan-African Daily, your first speech. Then we go into the discussion. What is it that your followers should look forward to hear from you today?
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Susan. I think we were all saddened by the news. I couldn't believe it. A friend of mine called me from a Nigerian but living in Ghana and said, "Hey, Ousman, I heard that your guy is gone." I was in fact driving. I just had to park somewhere and call few people in Tanzania, and they confirmed. So it was really sad, but it's something that we couldn't avoid, and we have to move on as a continent. It was Marcus Garvey who said, "Leadership is everything. It is pain, it is blood, and it is death." So he led by example. He have set foundation. He have set peace and blueprint for African development, for African leadership, and for African politics. It is high time that, yes, I know it is hard for us to, take it, that he is not today as president of Tanzania because death has taken him, but his legacy remains with us. His tracks remain with us. His spirit remains with us. He have set that footprint that Africa is able to do it, that Africans, when united, that Africans, when focused, then Africans with principles, we are able to register success. And this is the kind of a discussion that I hope to have today with you and our audiences out there, to interact and give our own perspective as to who was the legendary John Pombe Magufuli, but also what we can learn from him as a generation next. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, we are looking forward to this wonderful conversation today with you, Honorable Ousman Touray. And while we're waiting on the others to join us, also, please just take a look at what, who, where he's coming from, where he's going to. Take a look.
The most unique thing that we have as Gambians, like we interact with one another, we live with one another. It doesn't matter how big the family is. We share everything, no matter how little it is, and people are content with that. That even if things are going hard, you can still observe smiling faces under each and every person that you meet along the street. So that is a plus for everybody in the Gambia, and that is why I'm a proud Gambian and a proud African, and I believe I can make it, and I'm going nowhere but in the Gambia. Nobody is going to do it for us.
That's right.
If we are all running away, when are we going to make it? We have to stay in Africa, develop in Africa, and then show to the world that Africa have a better image than the one they portray in the West. I think this is what we all need to do as Africans, and then we promote that as Pan-Africans and also as Gambians.
Excellent. I couldn't have said it better myself, actually. I propose that you come and do some shows with me. This brother's got it going on. Yeah. But seriously, I think that the misrepresentation of Africa has, I mean, it permeated my brain, and I knew, because I was coming from a Pan-African background, but still, the images are forced upon us. So I think you young Gambians have a responsibility to show the other side of Gambia, the Gambia that, we diasporians and many people in the West don't see. They just don't see it.
Exactly. I think that is the work of the academics. That is the work that we need to do as young scholars. For far too long, people have been portraying Africa negatively to the outside world. And we know that that was done by individuals whose sole aim was to dominate Africa, to exploit Africa's resources, and then to continue to colonize us politically. Now, our role as academics, as young scholars, is how do we make sure that this picture is changed from the literature itself, going back to rewrite the books, to rewrite the history of Africa, and then to show to the world that we have a better image that the world is actually seeing as of today. And then you also come to realize that we need to invest in Africa, because foreign investment always leads to capital flights and etc. Because people who come in and invest, at the end they can take all the resources, and then you come to realize that it becomes another challenge for us. But when Africans invest, the money stays in Africa, which is a plus. It can enhance, it can help when it comes to employment, when it comes to, you know, coming up with all the facilities and then enhancing the development that we own, that we all desire as Africans and etc. I think that is what we need to do as we speak, and that is what we all Africans need to be thinking into that particular line, like trying to see how we can repent that particular picture shown by the outsiders about Africa, because they, in fact, let me tell you, there was this quotation that I read. It was actually done by a British parliamentarian, Lord Macaulay, in 1835. He speaks about Africa, and then he said, in order for the West to dominate Africa, they need to overthrow our very backbone, and that is our education system. When we believe that everything that is Western is correct, then they can dominate us forever.
Exactly.
And that is 1835. They've been working on those bases. So today it is high time, because we know the realities. Let us try to rewrite the history. Let us try to work again and attract investment in Africa by Africans.
1835, you tapped into this literature and you made a point about it. And ever since then, decades have passed, nothing has changed. And you're saying that we have to rewrite the history. Now, His Excellency John Pombe Magufuli rewrote this history. The floor is yours. We are looking anxiously to hear your presentation, your address to Africans worldwide, and what we should be looking forward to on this conversation. Over to you, Honorable Ousman Touray.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Susan. And I just want to say my condolences to the people of Tanzania, to the people of Africa, to the people of African descent, wherever they are. As I just said earlier, it is a sad moment, but it is a moment in which we have to learn that no one is here permanent, but the fact that the legacies, the footprints, the actions of individuals remain with us. When many individuals inside of Africa and outside of Africa stood and fought and did mention about African development, they all had an agenda, a spirit, and that was Pan-Africanism. Today, John Pombe Magufuli was a living proof that Africa can do it, Africans can do it, Africans can set development that they want for themselves, and they can equally register success in it. When he came into power, he made promises. Today he is known for having been able to combat corruption. He is known for having been able to stand for the poor. He is known for having been able to put actions, to put practice, to deliver to the people of Tanzania. But even if we go a bit far, we have to understand that Tanzania has been a center for unity, because that was the same spirit that Julius Nyerere had upon gaining, or when the country attained independence. There was the need to bring everybody on board. There was the need to dissolve the issue of tribe. There was the need to unite a nation. And that is why Tanzanians have enjoyed that unity today. That some African countries have gone through problems that Tanzania have never experienced, because they had founding fathers who stood firm and fought for unity for the people of Tanzania. And John Pombe Magufuli today, as I said, he is a living proof. He has shown us like blueprints that Africans can do it. Pan-Africanism is a solution, and we needed practical aspect of development. It was just later last year that the UNDP announced Tanzania to be a middle-income country. And that came immediately after his 5-year term. That tells that he has delivered, that tells that the man was practical, and that shows that he had leadership principles. But the objective today is we have to understand that there is the need for us to have a continuity. We have experienced good leaders in Africa, and post their tenure in office, people succeeded and there were no continuity. That is the issue that we have to reflect on today. We have to make sure that in 10 years, in 30 years, even if John Pombe Magufuli was to come back and speak with us, we will not bend, we will not be shy, and he will be proud to say, of course, this is what I wanted. Tanzania, this is what I want Africa to be. One major thing that is principle, that is important for all of us to know. Today, Tanzania is one of those countries where Swahili, which is an African language, is mostly spoken. Sometimes I will sometimes have to listen to him giving speech, and I will have to even consult others to help me with interpretation.
Correct.
Because he was so concentrating in the fact that Africans need to understand that language is very important, and we should not be apologetic to speak our own languages. And that was a proof. We cannot see him today as someone who has done, you know, like what other African countries, presidents, for instance, have done in terms of what? Flying everywhere in the world, just trying to get recognition. This was an individual. Today we are all celebrating him, but there are few countries that he visited, even in Africa, even outside of Africa. When he came into power, we have not seen him flying through European conferences, American conferences, Asian conferences. No, because he knew he had a mandate, and that was to deliver to the people who trusted him in office. And again, this is an individual who cut his salary into different parts, and he was among the least paid presidents in Africa. And that shows that this is an individual who have love for humanity. This is an individual who was passionate about problem solving. And today we will recognize him as a merchant of solution, because in one way or the other, he have set prints. He have shown us the way. He have shown us that Africans can do it. But first, we have to recognize ourselves. We have to be unapologetic to be Africans. We have to focus on Pan-Africanism. We have to focus on solving the environmental realities. And we should not betray the trust of people who put us in office. If we go through the news today, having been watching on TVs and etc., seeing the people of Tanzania, people are screaming on the streets, be it the military, be it the people, you know, with differently able, be it individuals who are in politics, be it individuals in all stakeholders. It all signals that he was a patriotic leader, and he was in the hearts of the people who entrusted him into office. So we will remember him today, and we will remember him forever. We will also continue to pray for his soul to continue to rest in power. He had today joined the likes of Nkrumah, the likes of Thomas Sankara, and many other great African leaders. And that is a signal to this generation. We have seen leaders in Africa who has been in power for more than 30 years, and today very few people know about them. This is an individual who was in power for just 5 years, and this was his second term. But today, he has set track records all over the continent, and he is a living proof that Africans can do it, that Africans has the solution to the African problem. Thomas Sankara was in power for just 3 years, and we have seen him in the records of Africa today. This is the kind of leadership, this is the kind of individuals that we as young generation of Africans need to look up to, learn from them, get ourselves close to their practical knowledge, get ourselves close to their policies, get ourselves close to their tracks and etc. in order for us to shape the trajectory of African development that we want. Many of us today, we can quote a lot of people outside of the continent, taking references, but there cannot be an excellent model for a practical African development in the absence of John Pombe Magufuli. So we'll do our best to learn more. We'll do our best to get into contact with people who he was with. We'll do our best to learn from experience, to see what can be done to make sure that the spirit of John Pombe Magufuli remains with us, the legacy of John Pombe Magufuli remains with us, and his track, and there is a continuity in all his projects that he intended for the people of Tanzania and Africa at large.
This is deep. Honorable, when we listen to you, we hear the voice of the ancestors. I can't even refer to you as a junior. I can't even refer to you as a young leader. I just see an ancestor in you. Now, you have seen the recent development immediately after his passing away, and there was already a cessation, or a succession, not cessation, sorry. And Her Excellency Samia Suluhu is already putting everything that he stood for, or their leadership stood for, in place. Now, these smart steps, how do you refer to it, and what is it that your generation needs to pick over from it in terms of leadership?
I think that is the sign of maturity. That is a sign of, the fact that he has put in place mechanisms to instill institutional powers, institutional structures that could set peace for Tanzania as a whole. In some other African countries, we have seen, perhaps not a similar instance, but we have seen succession causing a lot of havoc, lot of troubles among people, dispute here and there before they could be. But in his leadership, today what we have seen is the fact that he does not show women as competitors, but as partners in development. We have seen them in the forefront, and we have seen that he had built institutions already that could do the continuity of the projects that he stands for. Today, the issue in Tanzania is people could be crying in their hearts. You can see tears in the faces of individuals, but he has also built an institution for succession to occur. And we have to understand one thing. It is very paramount, it is very important for us to know that we collectively have a responsibility in moving our countries forward. Today he has done his task and he's gone. His spirit remains, his ideas remain, his legacy remain. But we have a mandate to take all his projects from where he left it now to another point. And to do that, we must make sure that we don't compromise the foundation that he has already built. So that is why we have to celebrate the fact that Tanzania today is having first female president, but at the same time, they've set development, at the same time, they've set in institutions, at the same time, they've come up to do a succession in this trying time in a very mature way, in a very with disciplined, calling on individuals, and that is the track, that is the trajectory that Africa wants to see today. We are tired of being laughed at for succession. We are tired of being laughed at for change of regimes. we're tired of being laughed at for just to have another government in place. It is high time we put maturity in everything that we are to do. And that includes succession, that includes seeing women around the continent as partners in development, empowering them in all stakeholders, opportunities and etc., opening up to make sure that individuals participate in politics, to make sure that individuals take up leadership position, to make sure that we groom individuals, if we're in leadership position, to make sure that they can do like easy be it like in a form of succeeding an individual, in a form of building up that collective, to make sure that there is continuity in the projects that we do, in the development that we do, even in terms of ideas. Because there is one thing to have a vision, which is very good, because leadership is key, because it is the leaders that we expect to be visionary enough to move societies from point A to point B. But if you have a vision and you don't have the skill to transform that vision in the minds of the people who follows you, you still have another problem of sustainability. So that is why having a vision is one thing. Having the ability to transfer your vision in the minds of people, be it the young generation, the active forces, the old generation, in shaping a particular trajectory for a society is another thing. So it is very important that they are able to register this by bringing up things, setting up institutions, bringing on individuals on board, having a continuity in the project of John Pombe Magufuli, and we wish them well. We wish them to succeed. We wish them to multiply thousands of John Pombe Magufuli in the coming years. I mean, he is more than Tanzania. His solutions could fit all over Africa. His ideas could fit all over Africa. So that is what we believe, and our prayers are with them. We'll do our best to better connect. We'll do our best to better learn from experiences and see what other African countries can learn from it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, my President, my Excellency, my Honorable. You talked about the longevity. You talked about His Excellency Thomas Sankara, just 3 years. You talked about now His Excellency John Pombe Magufuli, 5 years. And now, if we look at the timing, what is it that your generation would learn today that our generation did not learn? I mean, I break it down like our generation expected people to live long for them to understand the message. Now we have even Professor Pierre Lumumba and other voices that are speaking. Now, do you think we're still not paying attention, that Africans start paying attention when they leave? Today we celebrate even Sankara. It makes a lot of sense. Muammar Gaddafi, all of them. But when they were alive, we were not listening. That was my generation. Now, what is it that your generation should learn about time?
Yes, thank you so much. And I think I've said this in so many instances, that there has been a disconnect between the young generation of Africans and the people in leadership. To some extent, being in our youthful age, we are told not to be interested in things that matters, like decision making at the state level. To some extent, we distinguish ourselves, we distance ourselves, and we only get there when we attain certain level in age and etc. And that is why we've seen people in leadership positions and they are performing very badly. But one thing that this generation needs to understand is the world has changed, and it is changing. It is changing at a very fast rate. In fact, many of the things that individuals could learn in school for 12 years, today you can just have it in your pocket and move around the streets. that tells you that there is the need for us to have a shift in the mindset, for us to have a shift in the way we perceive things within Africa. I mean, when we look through the African continent, we've seen people who have been speaking just to make sure that our minds are decolonized, just to make sure that we are free in thinking. The likes of Piolo Lumumba, for instance. But whether we know it or not, you know, he's going to retire at some extent. He's going to retire at some point. But who are those individuals that are going to take up responsibility? Not just to talk, not just to speak for the people to hear, but to demonstrate actions, to be in leadership positions, to tell the people in power today that the future lies in our hands and we have a responsibility to fix it. There are major problems in Africa, but no one can fix it other than the African youths. Let us be realistic. We don't have 70-year-old people carrying guns in the forest. No, it is young people. And there is something that needs to be done in the consciousness of every individual. For if I love peace within myself, then I will definitely not have the time to be carrying weapons against other Africans. But instead, I will think about solution for African development. So we have a lot to learn from the likes of John Pombe Magufuli, the likes of Thomas Sankara, and others and others and others, the likes of Patrick Lumumba. Thomas Sankara was in my age when he started doing speeches, when he started putting questions on the existing phenomena. He stood for the people, and he had to tell them that something needed to be done. And he not just said it, but he took action, see himself as a part of the solution. We have to understand that in these complex societies that we live, in this present world that we live, we're talking about technology, we're talking about advancement, change, innovation, rapid things going to occur in the near future. And we don't expect people in power today to tell us how to handle those things, because we already know it better than they do. So we have a responsibility to fix it, and that is Africans, youths, wherever we are. Today we have to learn from the likes of John Pombe Magufuli, the likes of Patrick Lumumba, the likes of Thomas Sankara and others, and then to challenge ourselves, to take actions, liberate our people, set development patterns, built on foundations that Africa can be free forever. Because that is the objective. The main focus of the man that we are talking about today was to liberate Tanzania, for them to register economic growth, for them to register infrastructural development, for them to combat poverty, for them to combat corruption. But this same problem that he was fighting is today reflecting in many other African countries. So we cannot do that by distancing ourselves from the very problem. We cannot do that by running away from the continent. We cannot do that by believing that outsiders will come and rescue this continent. The spirit that they have, the knowledge that they have, the principle that they have should be in every young African, to believe that there is a responsibility, to believe that we have a mandate, to believe that we are the solution to Africa, and we have a responsibility to fix every problem. Because at some point, something needs to end. We cannot be a continent of beggars. We cannot be sitting in all the resources that the world is looking for and still go outside of the continent to beg for food. Then something is wrong. Today we are celebrating, we are commemorating, we are sending in condolences, we are, praying for an individual. Why? Because he stood for something that he believed. Because he stood for the interests of his own people. And we will all want to be remembered in a similar way. And if we do so, then we have to take similar actions. Every African country today has a problem, but every other African country today has solution to their problems. And
Absolutely.
the youth must be the lead in everything. That is fundamental, and we need to understand that.
Yeah. Magufuli, yeah. Magufuli, yeah. Magufuli, yeah. When we look at the diaspora is watching you, and like I said on the first ever show that we sat here, that you're the future president of Africa. And one thing that we want Africans worldwide watching us today, particularly the young people, you have a president. You don't need to look for one again. We have to learn to focus our attention and our goals, our hierarchy on what is already given. Excellency, President Honorable Ousman Touray, like I said, or like we prophesied, is the president of the new Africa. Now you have the diaspora watching you. Your people are not only on the continent, the youth and the challenges and everything is not only on the continent. Even the ones in the diaspora that are being murdered on a daily basis, people of African descent that have been disrespected, that have been killed in every corner of the world, that have been marginalized, that have been drowned into the oceans. What is the message that you want to tell them?
Yes, I just want to say one thing first. It was Marcus Garvey who said that if we as African descent in the diaspora must be ready to give up the desire to be presidents of Africa, to be presidents in America, president of France, to sit in the US Congress, to sit in the House of the Lord, for one thing, filling these positions in the continent of Africa. We have to go back. That was his claim. That was what he stood for. And going back to Africa entails so many things. We must be ready to come, because when we look at the world right now, whether we like it or not, but every race deserves a home. The Jews are going to Israel. Indians are rushing to India. You have the Asians, be it the Chinese, rushing to China, and the list goes on. Where can Africans go to other than Africa? This is home for every black person. This is home for every African. And we have to come back. We have to come back with a mindset that we are not going to Africa to exercise overlordship, but we are going to Africa with skills. We are going to Africa with knowledge. We are going to Africa with investment. We are going to Africa to integrate. We are going to Africa to take what we own, because Africa is home for all of us. And to all the young people going on, we understand the situation. We understand the frustration, but only us can fix it. And we don't fix it by running away. We fix it by having the ability to face it here, solve the problem among ourselves, build up platforms, exchange ideas, build up markets among ourselves, develop skills among the African youths, and then we can enhance the development that we all desire as Africans. It is sad that even in my own country, the Gambia, we are one of the smallest countries in Africa, but yet we have most migrants crossing through the Mediterranean, crossing through the Atlantic, all going into the West, with one problem, because they are frustrated at home. By who? By people in power. Who can change it? Not outsiders, but us, the same people running away. But we all have a mandate. Because one thing, why I don't condemn them at times, face any young African, ask them this question: why are you leaving? The answer is common. I want to help my mom. I want to help my sister. I want to do this for the family. And that is why they're running. And these are things that we can have within the continent, but we have just been neglected by the same people in office. So on that note, I just want to say that let us come back to Africa. Let us come with an open mindset. Let us come with the idea that we have to come collectively as a people. We have a universal identity, and that alone is important. Build a united Africa, work on the African history, because a lot of destruction have occurred, a lot of destruction. Colonialism have destroyed a lot in Africa, and we have to come to terms. We have to understand that yes, this has happened to us, but we cannot stay here. We have to move forward. And to do that, the diasporians, Africans living abroad, they are the biggest partners of this continent. Because in one way or the other, with all the remittances that they are sending into Africa, with all the supports that they are sending into Africa, if well channeled, Africa will no longer need the World Bank. We will no longer need the IMF. We will no longer have to go to China and beg for paper money. We will no longer have to go to Saudi Arabia and beg for projects. We will no longer have to be following US government for certain interventions. We have to understand that we have resources, we have people out there, and let us channel this in a good and timely manner, well structured for the benefit of Africa as a whole. So thank you.
Thank you very much, My Excellency. I have one last question from us, and then we would be rounding up this address from Honorable Ousman Touray, who just came in shortly to share his condolences with the people of Tanzania and to Africans as a general, but to pass a very pertinent message to young people worldwide, young Africans worldwide. Now, Honorable, when you look at the situation of the girl child, the African girl child, what is it that you think your generation would change in terms of opportunities, particularly in terms of management and leadership? If you look at the Rwanda model, where I think we have 65% of women that are into parliament and into leadership positions. Now, what would your generation do in terms of the African girl child?
Thank you so much, Dr. Susan, for that opportunity. One thing that is very, very paramount, I think in one way or the other, our generation have opened up more to better integrate among ourselves as a society, to partner with the girl child in most of the things that we do. Even when I was in primary school, I was attending different workshops, meetings as a young boy in the villages in Gambia, where we were brought in different organizations, in different projects, just to escape, to understand that we are not competitors. But in order for our societies to move, we have to partner. And that has shown us the way. And I'm sure that many other Africans of my generation is now experiencing this. You can look at youth groups, youth leadership, youth movements across the continent. You come to realize that you see young women being actively in certain positions, very crucial in the things that we're doing. And that is how that they can equally do it. So we have to come up, build a society in which it is promoted by mutual understanding, a society that brings in every individual with social inclusion, a society that doesn't neglect individuals based on their gender. And it is something that we can achieve. It is something that we can work on. It is something that we can solve as a people. It is sad that in some African countries, we still have, less than 10% women representatives. We have seen in certain situations where women are only reach out, or people only go to them when it is time to campaign. But we have to understand that we have to graduate from that normality, build more civil awareness among ourselves, be it this generation, all that we can do in raising awareness, combating also certain cultural restraints. that affects the girl child, giving them more avenues, giving them opportunities in the school system, giving them the opportunity to to pass through the grades, to pass through the school levels, have the same educational experience, have the same mindset, have the same opportunity as any other individual, be it at the family level, at the society level, at the national level, and even in the international level. Those are things that we can achieve, and we seek to do that. We seek to have all these projects within our track as we move on in the near future. Thank you.
Yes, I know it is too early, but of course, taking your leadership forward and your generation forward already requires you to start making preparation and even looking at the models that we have now. When you look at the situation of foreign policies, what do you think your generation has learned and would do better in dealing with foreign policies? Question number one. Number two, when you look at the situation of the African Union, what is it that your generation has learned, and what is it that your generation and your leadership of Africa would do?
Yes, let me say this. In terms of foreign policy, one thing that many other African countries fail to understand is that in foreign policy, whether people manifest it or not, it is national interest that goes first. America will never adopt a foreign policy that goes against the interests of Americans.
Absolutely.
And that is paramount for every African country to understand. There is the need for us to set things in order. We have to set our house in order before we can achieve anything in terms of policy formulation, policy development, policy relation within Africa, or even between Africa and other countries outside of Africa. And to attain that, it means we have to set things in order. But if your foreign policy is shaped by economic, by security, by politics, one thing is going to happen. It's either you're strong economically, then you will be able to influence other states. If you are poor, it is the opposite that happens. It means it's the reverse. You see richer countries using their influence economically, and this is what is going through in many African countries. Because you take loan from country A, you take loan from country B that tells you what you should adopt, what you should do in your own society. And again, because of security, many African countries have failed in building good security system, good institution, security-wise, and as a result of this, individuals outside of the continent can easily penetrate institutions and all that just to make sure that their objectives, their interests are met within African countries. And again, in the politics, many African countries have adopted ideas in politics, policies in politics, ideologies, for instance, without being able to narrow it down in the interests and in the realities of their own country. And as a result of this, it fails because the ideology is different from the reality of the people. And as a result of this, because if you belong to a certain ideology, you see a particular country outside of Africa trying to shape the way in which your politics has to be conducted. Be it Russia, be it the US, be it China, be it France, and etc. That is how it goes. And coming back to the last question, I understand that the first question was on foreign policy, and the last question was?
The last question was on African Union.
Exactly, yes. What can we learn from the African Union as this generation? I just want to say one thing. I have a problem with the African Union. And my problem with the African Union is because I read the principles, the founding documents that inspired Nkrumah, Nyerere, and others to come and unite themselves to form what was called the Organization of African Unity. The issue is that if we want to form a collective union, that is to stir the desires, the aspiration of African countries, we have to be able to own it by ourselves. How can we say that the African Union is for Africans when it is half financed by outsiders? How can we say the African Union is African when even the new building complex is built with the aid of an outsider? How can we say the African Union is African when there are outsiders who have a say on who to be elected, on who should be who does the specific mandate and etc. All these things are fundamental, but I'm not saying that it shouldn't exist. The fact of the matter is there must be good reforms in the African Union. There must be actions taken in the African Union to make it an African. We have to own it by ourselves. As long as other individuals have a say, as long as other individuals finance it, then they shape the actions that are taken within the African Union. And what we have been seeing in recent years is that it is an institution that protects, where you have African leaders protecting one another, even in their own atrocities. We've seen African leaders who break the barriers, done a lot of things against their own people, and yet the African Union is silent about that. And we've seen other African leaders being silent about it. Sometimes you don't see the African Union to take action until they had that country A outside of Africa have said one thing about this issue, then they start taking action. So we have a problem with it. We have to reform it. We have to go back and understand that it was built with an objective, and that was African unity. It was built with an objective, and that was peace in Africa. It was built with an objective, and that was economic transformation in Africa. It was built with an objective of African liberation. And this has to be well rooted in their activities on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. And we have to see this in it. Another important aspect of it is they have to start taking young people into consideration in project development, in the ideas, in policy formulation, just to make sure that they're actively participating in the things that matters for the continent. You cannot have an Agenda 2063 to be monitored by 70-year-olds. What are they going to tell us in 2063? I mean, these are fundamental problems that we have within the African Union, and it has to be solved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know other questions are coming up, but because of your time and another schedule that you already had, we're still going to get Honorable Ousman Touray here on a one-on-one on questions and answer for what his generation has learned, and him, like the future leader of the Africa that we want, what is it that they would do better? But of course, the question of security is one other open question that I would really like to close this session with. Particularly if we look at the Magulification that we're talking about, we have never seen really in the recent times that Tanzania has been at war with itself, that even neighbors and stuff. Yes, they have their internal conflicts or domestic conflicts. Who doesn't have? But if we look at the general picture, now, I would have loved to ask you this question on another one-on-one, but let me just brush it now, please, because we still have the issue of one passport of finance, and that what your generation has learned, what they need to take forward. But I just want to put it now on the question of security, because I got a question like, do you foresee in your generation a united African military? What is the security measures that you could already in your generation be thinking in formulating all these principles while we look ahead?
Yeah, thank you so much. You know, one thing that we need to understand, today we have seen many investors running to go to Tanzania, running to go to countries like Rwanda, running to go to countries like Botswana, running to go to countries like Mauritius. I'm just naming these countries because we have seen the kind of investment going, like in Ghana in recent years. That tells you that investors only go in places where they believe that their investments are secure. And that is paramount. So Tanzania, for instance, they have set a peace in a sense that in recent years we have not seen dispute, we have not seen other issues, you know, going on in a way that it threatened the interest of investment in Tanzania. And one other thing that is very important is the development of a continental passport. I mean, it is sad that in some African countries, even if I want to go there, I need to apply for a visa. You see, after having my own passport as an African. This makes it very easy for internal trade in Africa. It makes it very it makes it very difficult for internal trade in Africa, and it also makes it difficult for regional integration because people are limited in terms of travels. But we have to understand that this is a generation that can do it, in a sense that today we have built more understanding among ourselves as African youths than our elders have done in the past. That is a reality. Today I'm connected with youths across Africa. We're meeting in different platforms, we're exchanging ideas, we're trying to see what each other are doing in their perspective, in their own perspective, in their own countries, and etc. And that all comes down to the point that the African unity can happen in our generation. Developing a continental passport can happen in our generation. Developing the Africa that we want can happen in our generation. It is a problem of consciousness, and we can do it. Once we continue to interact in platforms like this, talk about African issues, meet in different African youths, integrate, ask each other on what we think of for the future and etc., then we are definitely going to promote that unity among ourselves, and we will definitely have a say, because political will cannot be in the absence of it. But when youths participate in politics, when youths take up leadership positions, then they're definitely going to take actions, make decisions that are going to bring us together, make it easier for our brothers and sisters equally in the diaspora, because we cannot talk about African unity without giving them easy access to Africa. And to do that, we need more negotiation mechanisms, we need the political will, be it legally in our laws, reforms in our constitutions, as well as our development trajectory, and etc. Thank you.
Example and the role model of Magufuli, we would continue on this discussion on this week. So we're inviting you again on this conversation. We left it here. You've given out a lot of questions, but of course, Honorable has been here to give you already the blueprints of what the Africa that we want should look like. A lot of us have been asking questions. Oh, when are the leaders going to come on and do this? When is the think tank looking up? And we've been anticipating and looking at all the people and all the faces. Now, it pleases and warms our heart to know that the youths are not sleeping. It pleases and warms and even affirms us to know that we are on the right track. What more else can we expect when we listen to already the future leader? We keep talking every day about we have to empower our youth. We have to give them this. But you see, like we've been saying, the youths have taken the responsibility. They've taken it from us. They will not even wait for us to give it to them. Selfish parents and leaders that we are, the youth will not take it easy with you. They're taking it up and they're remodeling how their future is going to look like, who is going to determine it, how they're going to look forward to it. And applause to you. I mean, like, we are giving you a standing ovation for this work. We know, like I said, you came here, you gave us work to do. You gave us the challenge. You gave us the mandate. You put all of us into a think tank. That is actually what's been happening and is been happening and will happen. So we want to thank you very much. I mean, only you would hit a 1K view on a social media platform and even a 200K view, 200 view on YouTube, where no one. Only Honorable Ousman Touray can do that. Only Maponga Joshua King can do that. Only Juliet Rayan can do that. Only Professor P.L. Olumumba, Professor James Small, and all our speakers that have been doing here. I want to thank you on behalf of the Pan-African Daily TV, on behalf of the P.L. Olumumba Foundation, on behalf of the ADDI, on behalf of all the existing structures out there that are fighting for Pan-Africanism. I want to thank you so very much for this opportunity to address us. One last word to your audience before we leave you, Honorable.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Susan. I'm equally grateful for being able to be here today. And as I said earlier on, it is a hard time. We have to attest to that. But we have a future to build. And again, condolences to the people of Tanzania. We will keep praying for John Pombe Magufuli, for his soul to continue to rest in power. And then we'll also continue to challenge myself, my other Africans, to learn from leaders like this in order to build the Africa that we want. We can all do it. Let us just keep loving one another. Let us keep promoting peace among the Africans. Let us keep respecting the African. Let us understand that we have something to build, and that is Africans as a people, Africans as a race, and Africa as a home. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, my honorable. And thank you so much, my dear listeners, and all of you that have been here. We are at the end of this presentation. Unfortunately, we're not going to take calls today because this was an address. And when an address comes up like that, it is not for open calls. It is like, you know, a president addressing the nation. We know he's still going to come up here on a one-on-one, and that time we will open up to take questions. I must apologize to you for that, but you have heard that it was a short presentation and address to calm your hearts down and say, child of Africa, weep no more. There is hope, and we have work to do. Thank you so very much, Excellency. We see us here very soon again, and our regards out there. Much respect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and to you, our dear fans and followers, I want to wish you a very happy Sunday. Please, I thank you to Patrick Kasirim, who is going to put up a very exciting Pan-African sermon brought to you this day by King Bishop Maponga Joshua Marara. I mean, we already showed it in the morning, but we know that like in the diaspora, a lot of people were still maybe sleeping all that time. So we're going to upload and rebroadcast that. And it is all about how to pray, particularly in times like this. Now, how do we Africans revert to conversations like this, particularly King Bishop Maponga? You all know him. He's not only a theologian, he is an indigenous African king, and he knows what he's saying. He uses the tool called the Bible and to tell you exactly what you Africans to know about it. So this sermon is coming up, I think 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. Just watch up. If you cannot get the live, please click the notification to just know when we're live, because we will not be sharing any communication on that again. I also want to thank DJ Aisha, from whose platform we are streaming live now. DJ Aisha is a powerful young African queen and princess, not yet a queen, she's still a young princess. And she is a combination of Kenyan born and Tanzanian born. And DJ Aisha came up, it's a girl, as you can hear already, a girl child, from her name, DJ Aisha, is one of the powerful young Africans that have been challenging top DJs in Europe on a content, telling them this is the way Africa rolls. So DJ Aisha reached out to us, and we are collaborating on a memorial big party for His Excellency Magufuli. It is called the Magufuli Big Party. It's going to take place on the first weekend of April, the 3rd to the 4th. And DJ Aisha is busy putting up a collections of musicians, of artists that are commemorating to say, you know what? We don't give a damn what the world thinks. We're going to celebrate our leader today and after life. Yes, so watch out for the flyers that will be dropping out soon on our weekly. And we are so happy to get this collaboration with DJ Aisha, and also with Afro News EU. .eu.de. Yes, afronews.de. Sorry. So if you're looking to be a partner, to be a sponsor on this big event, and we're looking out to reach out Africans worldwide, and DJ Aisha promised to put this show on, and he's expecting at least 50,000 on that commemoration. He says His Excellency Magufuli was a symbol for him, not just because he comes from Tanzania and Kenya, but also for the young people, and that they have been on the ground just looking at how they can challenge the enemy of the freedom of Africa. And the only thing that he thinks is music. Music is the answer. So we're welcoming you. We would keep posting the updates of this upcoming big commemoration. And be aware of the fact that on the 25th, we're talking about Thursday, we are laying to rest, finally, the remains of late Excellency Dr. John Pombe Magufuli on Thursday. Please, we keep you posted because we're still on the Magufuli week, and other speakers would be coming up as from tomorrow up till Thursday. But what we intend to do, and we're looking forward, and we're just praying to be able to get a live stream on this occasion. But be aware on the fact that even Professor Baina Bello, who was here, is going to be also on the victory and freedom speech and presentation on that same day. Time, we will drop it out to you. So I wish you a very nice day out there, and wishing you all a blessed and safe day. We're going to continue to listen to this one song, the beat of the decade for Magnification of the African worldwide. Thank you so very much. It has been a pleasure. Bye-bye.